welcome back to Shou Talks. We are in a new year. I am dropping my podcasts on a new day. I have a whole new vibe that I am just looking forward to sharing with you guys. Not really much has changed. I still have zero filter. I still am transparent. I am watching my language. I am making sure I do not cuss because I am trying to be mainstream. And I would love if y'all just continue to support your girl and rock out with me as we get through this podcast. For those of you who have been rocking out with me, you noticed that I had an abrupt stop back in October 2020. Those of you who are personal friends of mine understand that the last few months have been quite the journey. Those of you who are just my audience, you're about to find out what happened. So let's dive right into it. In November of 2020, I unfortunately lost both of my parents. I haven't posted anything about it on social media. I kind of refrained from disclosing that information. It felt weird. I don't know why it felt weird. I just kind of wasn't in the headspace to talk about it. I didn't want anybody to call me and, tell me how sorry they felt for me. And if you need anything, let me, not that I don't appreciate those, but I personally didn't want that. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to accept it. So I chose not to post about it. The reason why I am opening up about it now is because I am forcing myself to become in the headspace of accepting this shift. I am embracing the shift that 2020 has placed in my life so that I can walk into 2021 and through 2021 with the strength and courage that I know my parents raised me to have. So just a little background on the situation of what actually happened with my parents. On October 21st, my mother was diagnosed with COVID. And for those of you who know me, I was her caretaker and, doctor's appointments, everything. I am at her side. I was her mouthpiece. And I can tell you guys that watching my mother be admitted to the hospital and be told that I could not be with her was one of the hardest things I ever experienced in my 33 years of life. When we got to the hospital and the doctor told me, your mother has COVID, so unfortunately, this is where your visit ends. I kid you not, y'all. I looked right at the doctor as if, you're not talking to me. Like, there's no way you think I am leaving my 71-year-old Alzheimer's mother here without my assistance. And I remember looking over to her laying on the table, and she's just smiling and giggling and speaking to the nurses that are there. And it's like, I'm not leaving her here. Like, she has no idea what's going on. Like, you're not gonna be able to handle her like I handle her. And I had to go. And that was the first time in a very long time that I broke down. I remember standing outside of the hospital room, pacing back and forth, trying to find a way to, go around their rules and their protocol. And I didn't care that Boston Medical was probably one of the best hospitals for COVID because they were one of the very few hospitals in Massachusetts to have a breakthrough. Is that what it's called? Not breakthrough. A outbreak. It was going to come to me. But I didn't care Because at the end of the day, I'm my mother's caretaker, not you. Like, I didn't care that these doctors had years and experience and, degrees under their belt. I'm her caretaker. I'm her safety blanket. I'm her pillow. And now you're telling me that I have to leave her here with you. So it was tough. And, we fortunately were given the opportunity to FaceTime with her every day. And I'm so thankful for all of the nurses that were on her floor and all of the nurses that took care of her and all of the doctors that were patient with me, because y'all, let me tell you something about this person right here that we call Shou. I had a schedule. I had a routine. I was calling the hospital every 3.5 to 4 hours to check and see how things were going. I was calling to FaceTime. I was calling to schedule. I was calling to schedule the FaceTimes. I was calling to find out how her labs were going. How is she feeling? What does she say this morning? What does she eat? What is she doing? Is she talking to you? What is your conversation? I was that child. I was a helicopter daughter. Like, I literally did not let the day go by without speaking to somebody at least 4 to 5 times. It was ridiculous. I felt so bad that I sent an edible arrangement to the hospital floor because I needed them to understand I was not coming from a bad place. But this was a woman that I literally took care of day in and day out. So if I can't have my routine while I'm at home, I'm going to continue my routine mobily. So she was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. And I remember the doctor calling me to tell me her oxygen is not getting better. And it was actually one of her night nurses that helped me understand why my mother was having such a hard time fighting COVID. And I wish I can sit and have a whole conversation with you guys about the seriousness of COVID and how it affects your body. But at this point, we have been dealing with this virus for almost a year, probably a year at this point. But I do not have those facts. I do not have that information. I don't have that knowledge. I just know how it affected Mama Biton. And we'll put a thumbtack in this real quick and give you a little history of Mama Biton, who had a kidney transplant back in 2003. So a little over 17 years. Yeah, a little over 17 years ago. And because of her transplant, she was on an autoimmune medication. Now, the night nurse explained to me that because of her autoimmune medication, her body was unable to fight the virus. Now, for those of you who don't know what an autoimmune medication is, it's something that keeps your body from fighting infections and from fighting organs. So when you get a transplant, your body tends to fight the new organ because it's not something that was naturally produced or naturally in there. It's kind of like, Mean Girls, like, you can't sit with us and get out. So in order for her body not to reject her new kidney, she had to take this medication. But because of this medication, she went into COVID at a disadvantage. One thing I will say is that Mama Biton is one of the strongest people I know. And for her to have gone into this virus at a disadvantage and fight for as long as she did, that right there is motivation all in one. And on November 2nd, 2020, she was called home. And that was one of the toughest decisions I've ever had to make. I got a phone call from the doctor, and he explained to me that we had to make the call to remove her from the oxygen. Now, try to imagine your mother is in the hospital and you are being told, hey, her blood pressure is dropping and we need you to tell us it's okay to take her off off of air. You need to tell us it's okay to let her go. And once again, I sincerely appreciate everything that the staff at Boston Medical did for her, did for us. They were able to set up a Zoom meeting for us to be with her in her final moments. We scheduled it at a time, and I'm gonna tell y'all, Mama Biton did not go as fast as they predicted she was gonna go. They told me they would take the oxygen off and it can go anywhere within a few minutes. Mama Biton fought that lovely little fight for at least an hour. To wrap that story up, we went from losing Mama Biton to fast forward 3 weeks later, I get a call from Papa Biton's best friend telling me that I need to fly down to Tennessee immediately. And no one is telling me what's going on. No one's giving me any information. Now that I sit back and think about it, I'm starting to understand that I'm not getting information because no one wants me to get on a plane with that type of emotion. So I finally get to Tennessee and, I'm brought to the hospital and I see my father hooked up to a machine in a coma. And for those of you who know me, I'm a daddy's girl. And the difference between seeing Mama Biton in the hospital and seeing Papa Biton in the hospital is that my mother has been sick my entire life. At least 75% of my life, my mother's been sick. So it was pretty normal to see her in a hospital bed. It was normal to see her, being medicated and taken care of. And I was her caretaker. But my father has always been the strongest man I know. My father has always been my rock and my strength. And walking into that hospital room that day was such a shock that I froze. And he looked exactly like himself. So I recognized him, but I didn't recognize him, if that makes sense to anybody. And I stayed with my father the entire week. I was at the hospital from sunup to sundown, just waiting and praying and hoping that he would wake up. So I got in on Tuesday, and the next day I came in and I was holding his hand and he squeezed my hand. The doctors tell me, it's reflexes, it's nothing. But guys, when you have a connection to somebody, there are certain things that you feel and and I felt that connection. He squeezed my hand a few times, and I feel like that was his way of telling me it's okay. It's all right. My father passed away on November 29th. And that morning, I remember getting a phone call from the hospital at 6 a.m. And they told me that his heart rate was over 250 and his blood pressure was rising. And that I needed to get to the hospital as soon as I can because they were not sure how long he would make it. That was at 6 a.m. my father passed away 12 hours later. And I cried, of course. I did the usual burying myself in work. I literally found any and everything I could to occupy myself, whether it was, okay, well, we're going to dive right into clearing out his apartment. All right, what paperwork needs to be filled out? I jumped into every pile of distraction I could find just so that I wouldn't deal with it. You know, I came back home 2 weeks later and jumped into another project. I jumped right back into work. You know, my coworkers were like, hey, are you sure about this? You should, really take the time to decompress and, take the time for you to accept and kind of just get yourself together. And I was like, nope, I'm good. Nope, what do you need me to do? Just keep giving me work. Okay, nope, all right, nope, all right, you, this, oh, yeah, oh, like literally that was me. And I'm still doing it now. For those of you who have been following me for a while, I'm renovating my house. I jumped right into that. Called my contractor who's still an amazing friend of mine. And, he's like, well, do you need to take time? Nope, I don't need to take no time. I need you to jump on this project and we need to get it going now. Like yesterday. Like, what do you need from me? What can I work on? I need it. I jumped on literally any pile I could find. And I'm still fighting to keep myself busy so that I don't think about it. But my emotions seep through every once in a while. My emotions start to pile up where they go, hey. I understand that you don't want to deal with this, but we're here. And the more you keep it bottled up, the harder we will erupt. Now, unless you want to deal with that eruption, I think you go sit down in the corner and cry real quick. And I do. I just had a birthday. My birthday was last week. And the night before, I let it out. I let it all out because it hit me that this was going to be my first birthday without my parents. It was my first birthday without waking up in the morning and going to wake up Mama Biton and having her wrap her arms around me and rock back and forth singing happy birthday. Kissing me right in the middle of my chest because she's only 5'2" and I'm 5'9". So her head literally got right to my little collarbone. And she would just give me a kiss. Just kiss to tell me how much she loves and appreciates me and happy birthday. And then, of course, she'd go on with the story of my birth. It's the first birthday where I didn't get a voice note from my dad on WhatsApp because, Haitians love WhatsApp, of him playing his piano to the beat of happy birthday and then singing the song. I was realizing that the night before my birthday, and I just let loose. I cried my eyes out. Not because I want them to come back. Of course I miss my parents. But let's keep it 100. Like, they are in a much better place than we are right now. Case in fact, what's going on in the world. But I cried because I knew that if they were here, I probably would have, been like, oh, get off of me, Mom. Or been like, oh, my dad is so embarrassing. But I don't regret anything about our relationships. With my mom, I was her caretaker. I was always her mom. We had that bond. It changed. I went from being her daughter to her mother, but I don't regret anything. I gave my mother the life she wanted to the extent, to the capacity I had. To her, her life was perfect. She had clothes all the time. I was doing her hair. She was going to daycare looking dressed to the T. If anybody knew Mama Biton, you knew she was dressed to the T. Bathed in perfume, lipstick, makeup done. Now, when I started doing her makeup, then we were looking right. When she was doing her makeup, she might have just thrown a little lipstick on her cheeks. We're not gonna dive. We're not gonna dive into that. But I took care of her. She felt that. She knew she was loved. She knew that her daughter would do anything for her. So I have no regrets. There's nothing for me to sit back and say, I wish I had more time. I wish she was still here. I wish, I want, I need, none of that. Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, she is still with me. Her spirit walks to my right. Papa Biton is to my left. I have two angels watching over me everywhere I go. I cried for both of their losses, but I regret nothing. The relationship I had with my father is something I hope to God, the father of my children, have. I loved my father, and he loves me. My father never hesitated to let me know how proud he was of me. I never doubted the level of compassion, affection, love, gratitude, appreciation, pride this man had for me, because he let me know. My father was actually a Shou Talks fanatic. He listened to every single episode. My favorite was when he would call me after a podcast to ask me, what did you study? Like, are you a psychologist? Because I was listening to your podcast where you were talking about behaviors, and you're very smart. You know a lot of stuff. And I'm like, well, first and foremost, as my father, you should know what I majored in. But it was just something where he didn't hide his love. He didn't hide his emotions. He didn't hide his pride in his daughter. I knew my father was proud of me because he told me. I knew my mother was proud of me because she told me. When they were upset with me, they told me too. It wasn't, I hate you. It was, look, you're better than this. This is how I raised you. This is what I expect from you. And I knew to do better. So with all of that in 2020, I'm walking into 2021 with a new perspective. I'm turning my trauma into motivation. Like I said, I almost gave up on this podcast, y'all. I literally was just like, I can't no more. I don't care for it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to entertain. I'm done. My parents are gone. I just want to wallow. I didn't want to do it. And I remember my dad reaching out to me right after my mom passed and saying, hey, are you going to keep doing your podcast? Because I really enjoy listening to it. And I don't think you should stop. And I was like, yeah, I'll eventually go back. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to talk about. And I think I might start my podcast with, Mommy's death. And he told me, are you ready for that? Do you think it's going to affect you? Like, do you think you can talk about it? And I was like, well, I'll figure it out. And then I lose him too. And before I even could accept the fact that I was getting ready to let go of Shou Talks, I heard his voice in my head telling me, don't let this go. You enjoy this. This is who you are. You were meant to be heard. And if I remember him telling me, yo, I'll find out somebody that's on the radio so that they can get you on. You have to be seen. The world needs to know who you are. And that reconnected my motivation. That helped me remember why I started podcasting in the first place and why I can't stop. I got to keep going. I got to keep making my parents proud. Just because they've passed doesn't mean I just stop. But like I said, y'all, I kind of just wanted to hop on here, let y'all know we back. Give y'all an explanation about why we had such an abrupt stop in 2020. But we back, y'all. We have some new topics. My promise to you is to have more topics of substance. I want to start talking about things that matter. Not to say that the topics I had before didn't matter, but I want to dive deeper into situations. I want to explore topics I've never thought of before. I have no problem putting my ignorance in the front line. I got some things in the works. I am going to share them with you. I'm going to bring some more guests on here. I have some topics that I've discovered through this, in the last 2 months, just things that have been going on. And I just really want to share my experiences with you. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all for rocking out with me. I appreciate the love and support that everybody has thrown my way since, November. Hell, even since October when my mom was first in the hospital. It has been a journey. But it is not a journey that I regret. It is not a journey that I resent. It is not a journey that I don't think I'd do it again. But it's not something that I'm like, oh, no, I would say, oh, no, never again. But y'all know what I mean. So I appreciate y'all. Feel free to hit me up on Instagram. My handle is I_am_Shounanigans. That's SHOUNANIGANS. Y'all need to feed into my Twitter because I got like 8 followers. We need to get that going. So I am on Twitter. It's Shounanigans. So that's SHOUNANIGANS. And Facebook. So holla at me on all these social media platforms. Let me know what's on your mind. If you have a topic you want me to discuss, if you are interested in being a guest, if you just want to vibe out, holla at me. That's what I'm here for. That's what I want to do. I just want to meet people. I want to talk to people. I want to learn people. Holla at your girl. And until then, stay safe, y'all. Because the world is wildin'. Wash your hands. Wear your masks. And keep praying. Because right now, at this point, this world just needs a lot of prayer. We need to call upon the ancestors. They need to come help us out real quick. Peace.